California's junior senator, Democrat Kamala Harris, has made quite the Washington debut. The former prosecutor is the second black woman and first Indian-American woman elected to the United States Senate. She struck a defiant tone at the Women's March in January, and her pointed, rapid-fire questioning in the Senate Intelligence Committee hearings in the face of Republican criticism and constant interruptions has turned her into a hero for many on the left. If the Democrats want to take back the White House, they need to get behind their next leader and their next rising star soon. So is Kamala Harris her party's new hope? Joining me now is actress, writer, and producer Erica Alexander, and back with me are Jason Johnson and Jamil Smith. So I'm going to start with you on this, Erica. But before I ask you the question, I've got to play my very favorite Kamala moment from the hearings. Here is Kamala and Jeff Sessions.
So I need to be correct as best I can.
I do want you to be honest.
And I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
She makes people She makes me nervous.
Yeah.
So is Kamala the rising star that America needs?
Yes, she is, and that's unfortunate for her. Let me put it like this. I bonded with her in the backseat of a Cadillac in 2008. It's not what you think. She was for Obama and I was for Hillary, and we were walking, and it was MLK parade, and she was outstanding then. She's beautiful, it has to be said. She's smart, she's competent, she's cautious, and that's the exact reason why she won't win the presidency of the United States.
And that is because you think the sexism is too...
I think it's real. I think that they're out for blood, and they'll make you the Wicked Witch of the West. So I think the worst thing we can do is tell everybody that she's the one, but she is obviously a star.
That's interesting. And, and it is interesting because, I want to play, and this is soundbite one, what happens when a woman becomes a figure that is seen as authoritative. There's a thing that happens to the way people perceive her. People say Elizabeth Warren, oh, she seems angry. Like, you start to see that thing happen. This is Kamala Harris attempting to ask Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina, the chairman of attempting to speak and being interrupted by the chair of the Intelligence Committee in June.
Are you willing or are you not willing to give him the authority to be fully independent of your ability statutorily and legally to fire him?
He has the...
Yes or no, sir?
He has the full independence that is authorized by those regulations. And
Are
Senator,
you willing to do as has been done before?
With the senator suspend, the chair is going to exercise its right to allow the witnesses to answer the question, and the committee is on notice to provide the witnesses the courtesy, which has not been extended all the way across.
First of all, she gave the full Angela Rye. She just gave them. and that became a meme, a huge meme. Shout out to Angie. That is what happens on her own committee.
Yes. Right.
So does Erica have a point that just being a woman sort of puts you almost in this country maybe out of
She is a woman. She is a woman of color. She is a woman in an interracial relationship. She's a woman from California. All of these things are going to work against her if she were to become a national candidate, in addition to the fact that there will be comparisons, non-positive comparisons to Obama, which is, here we go with someone else who's only been in the Senate for 15 minutes.
Donald Trump is president of the United States.
Exactly. Well, when you're a white guy, competence is not usually the issue. Let's just be candid with certain kind of voters. But this is the problem, because if we were in a fair, open America, of course she would be considered a great candidate. If she were a white male, of course people would be saying she's the next candidate. But unfortunately, we have seen with the turn of the worm over our last election system that this kind of person, it may be a while before Kamala Harris or anyone else like that can really challenge the national stage.
And meanwhile, Jamil, she even gets some static on the left, from Bernie Sanders supporters who don't like things about her or maybe see her as a threat to him getting the nomination. So you're starting to see that the sort of sharks are circling around her because people obviously see her starting to rise. Is she going to get cut off at the knees before she even has a chance?
Well, yeah. I mean, here's the problem, is that, that faction of the party really believes that race and gender and all things identity are divorced from class. And so, those two things, they're, never the two shall meet. And so when you have, that being that vocal a faction of the party, what you see is, people ruled out even before they have a chance to make their case. Yeah. I mean, look, there's one candidate I feel like, would be well suited to bridge that gap, and that's Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio. You have somebody there who can talk to people, the Trump voters that Democrats say that they want. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And but the thing is, we need to have people. The black women are the most loyal constituency of the Democratic Party. We need to have black women representing the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Joe, I got to add this. If you look at Alabama, you look at Georgia, you look at South Carolina, African Americans make up over 50% of the Democratic primaries in the state. In Georgia, black women are 42% of the primary. So if she ran, she's going to win some primaries.
Yeah, absolutely.
The question is, can she win Ohio? Can she win Ohio in a national election? Can she win Pennsylvania? That's where we really get into a sticky
And I think,
situation.
the other question is, and I'm glad you made the point that, African American women are not only the most loyal constituency in the Democratic Party, but actually vote at the highest rates of any American group, period. These are the most super voters, right, are black women. And Asian Americans are the fastest growing group of Democratic voters, period, but also the fastest rising group in the Democratic Party's base. So you have those two things in one body, right? And women,
checks a lot of boxes.
Right, which checks a lot of boxes. So why shouldn't women of color have at least a veto power over who becomes the next nominee? Why is it always got to be that we have to please white Rust Belt voters more than pleasing women of color?
Well, as Congressman Waters says, we have to reclaim our time. We reclaim my time. And that's what you're asking for, but you shouldn't ask for it. You just demand it.
Yeah.
It's time to go out and make not only deals, but see how we can get in there and restructure it. Nobody's going to give us anything. No one ever has. And so we've got to make sure this happens. I mean, you're absolutely right. This is a woman who's ridiculously capable.
Yeah.
And she's cut from a very sturdy cloth. She's a state's attorney. We have people like Eric Schneiderman and Marilyn Mosby doing, real work, firewall work with the Muslim ban and that type of thing. And she's used to a good fight. So I think we need to stand up and stick up for her. But it won't be easy, and for every reason that you said. But it's got to happen.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of a timeline? I'll just throw it out to the panel. I mean, it does seem to me that it was easier to elect a black man, in a sense, than to elect any woman.
Right.
So what are we talking about? Are we going to be the last Western country on earth to get over? What are we talking about? 10 years, 20 years? When is this country going to be ready?
A lot of it has to do with how bad this administration goes, because I think in large part, Obama got elected because Bush was so bad. The people were, we'll give it to a black guy now. I mean, literally, that's how bad things got. Exactly. So, and then once he fixes it, then you hand it to somebody else. So the interesting thing is, I think it could be years. It could be a decade. It could be, there will have to be another white man at the head of the Democratic Party and pick her as a vice presidential candidate. I just don't think, even Obama said in his exit interview, he's like, I might have shown up 20 years before the demographics called for it. Right. And I think that may be the case with Kamala Harris.
And is that also because that white women are so divided and mostly voting Republican?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what you have here is, Obama, of course, yes, he showed up early, but that actually gives me faith that Kamala Harris could be a viable candidate in 2020. I think that, look, again, she has to have a chance to make her case. Yeah. And I think that there are.
I'm going to reclaim my time. I'm going to reclaim my time because the show is over. So thank you very much to Erica Alexander, Jason Johnson, and Jamil Smith. That is our show for today. Be sure to